Welcome to another edition of Island Stat Sports Talk. I'm joined today by Tyler Smith, from the Triathlete, who competed on Saturday afternoon in Italy. Well, Tyler, it's been just over a year since your last competition. How did Saturday's event feel for you?
Thanks for taking the time to chat to me today, Earl. And Saturday was okay. It was really good to get back out on a start line. Got to do it there with another Bermudian, Flora, which it's always a pleasure to see her race. It was good. It was a challenging course, and probably one of the most sort of competitive World Cup Series events that you'll ever find, or certainly that there's probably been since maybe Lausanne in 2017. Just because of the nature of the season, really, it's been condensed, and all that there is really left to compete in is a couple of these end-of-year World Cups. So, I mean, in that race, you had the likes of like Alistair Brownlee, two-time Olympic champion, Vincent Louis, world champion, about 5 or 6 other guys that have actually won WTS events. Dorian Connix, who won in Bermuda, and so it was a competitive field on one of the most difficult courses, 100 meters of elevation on the bike per lap. So it was definitely a good chance to see where I stacked up in all 3 disciplines. You couldn't really hide anywhere on that course, and I walked away pretty happy with my shape. Of course, there's things to work on, but from having surgery a year ago, and to racing now is a big step for me, and it's giving me the confidence to continue training at this level going forward.
When you signed up for the event, did you know what the course layout was like beforehand?
No, I gotta think back. I had a look. They only really released the athlete's guide after I had registered for the event, so maybe that was a good thing. Maybe I would have been a bit intimidated by the course, but the island of Sardinia has hosted a World Cup before, not in that location. That's also notoriously challenging. So, I think in the end it actually played to my strengths, because it wasn't like just down to a run race. It was a swim, bike, and run, which isn't always the case on the ITU circuit. So for me, someone that's been injured for a year, getting the chance to show the progression that I've had especially on the bike, was really good. So I think the course sort of suited me in a weird way, and I mean, you never know what you're going to get from some of the courses. I was just really happy to get the chance to race.
Yeah. What was your plan on the start line? Because obviously you get up, you warm up, you feel a certain way, but on the start line, what was the plan?
So the plan was I had a low start position, so that kind of limits where you can pick to start the race. But there was some strong swimmers around me. So I know to the right of me was Henry Schoeman from South Africa, who's one of the best swimmers out there, and Alistair Brownlee as well, who's he's going to be at the front of the race. So the plan was really just to keep an eye on them, try to get onto their feet, and draft them to the front of the race, which worked to some extent, except the left-hand side also had a ton of strong swimmers, so they got out a bit faster, made it to the first buoy first. We were kind of caught in the wash, and at that point, it's kind of just looking up to see where you are in the group, and with 200 meters to go in that swim, everyone was the same, kind of just, okay, the next part is going to be the hardest part of the race, which is the first hill on the bike. And it did play out that way. I had no idea what it would be like to race at that level. That was kind of my first real competition against those guys, where I was fit and healthy. Maybe apart from Commonwealth Games, but Commonwealth Games, because the field is a bit smaller, is a bit different. So, I didn't have any pressure or anything on me, so I just tried to, see what I could do. Towards the end of the bike is when I realized I actually belong in this race. Like, when we were going up the hill for the 3rd lap, in kind of the second chasing pack, I pretty much led the whole thing, and did kind of give me the reassurance that I'm strong enough to ride with these guys, and I don't necessarily need to rely on them to do all the work. Like, I can take poles, I can dictate sort of the tempo of our pack, I can try to encourage people to pull through. And even coming into transition, I kind of just went off the front of the pack, got myself some space, had a good transition, was first out of the run out of the guys in the group. So there's a lot of good things to take away, but for me, certainly the thing I need to focus on is getting my run to that competitive level where I can be in the mix for top 15s, top 10s, and continue accumulating points. And hopefully, eventually get onto the World Triathlon Series, and then from there into the Olympic Games.
Obviously, with more competition comes better timing as well, because although you do a lot of training, competition adds to the race mentality kind of thing.
Yeah.
What have you been doing over the period where you were recovering from injury? Because the last time we talked, you were injured, but then to see you in your first event, 26 out of 66.
Yeah, so I mean, I think what was a big benefit to me was actually being back in Bermuda for 6 months over lockdown, because what that allowed me to do was to do cycling racing, to do even a swim meet, which I haven't done in 5 years or so. It allowed me to even to do like a super sprint Thursday triathlon, which no, these aren't like super competitive races, but it gets you in that racing mindset and away from the training mindset, which I think for me was really beneficial. It didn't feel like I hadn't raced in a year, because I hadn't. The last race I did was in August, which was the National Road Race Championships. And although it's slightly different and completely different field, a different sport even, it's something about being kind of just switched on, being like at a heightened sense of awareness of people making moves. Like it's very different from training. So that was one of the things I was cautious about. Even though I've been doing my best numbers in training, you never know what's going to happen on race day. And if it was just down to who had the best numbers in training, there would be no point of the race. So yeah, I was happy with how I, continued to train during lockdown. And luckily it came at maybe the perfect time for someone with an injury, because it meant I didn't miss out on any racing. My goal was always to race in October anyway. And it just so happened that there was no racing last year. So yeah, in a weird way, things kind of worked out pretty well for me. But obviously, yeah, that with the current situation, was just really, really pleased that World Triathlon actually put on some racing at the end of the year. So, yeah, I mean, to get the chance to, again, race those guys at that level is huge. And I think even if I'm not at my fittest right now, it's worth just throwing myself into those races, seeing where I come out, and then you can learn from that. And that's going to be, 1%, 2% improvement right there, just from having the experience of racing those guys. So
obviously, watching Flora ahead of your race, you still want to focus on yours, but by watching and seeing her from start to finish out front must give you a little bit of inspiration as well, because you're kind of wearing the same outfit, just different races.
Yeah.
But now all eyes are on you, because there was Bermuda out front, and there's Bermuda out front in that second pack.
Yeah, exactly. It's I was looking around, like, I hope no one's thinking that just because I'm from Bermuda, I'm going to be able to do that as well. Like, don't expect me to take all the pulls on the bike and stuff like that. So no, it was good. It was really good to watch Flora, and even just to familiarize myself with the course with her beforehand, like the day beforehand, and get to see what she thought of the hill and what she thought of the technical section was. Yeah, it's invaluable, like a senior athlete like that, being from the same country as you, and being able to learn from them. And then, yeah, I mean, just seeing the way that she attacked the course, really didn't hold anything back, kind of just committed to her race plan, obviously, and it paid off, was good to see. I knew that the men's race would be a different dynamic, just with the field that we had. I knew that there's not necessarily one guy that would be able to do the same thing as Flora. So I knew it would be a slightly different race, but nonetheless, it's really, yeah, it's something else to see that in person, and to see the way she attacks the course, and the focus beforehand and stuff like that. So for me, developing, yeah, that was huge to see her out there.
What are your immediate plans? I know you plan to race at least 1 or 2 more times before the end of the year, but what are your immediate plans?
Yeah, so right now I'm actually out in the south of Spain. Just because if I was going to go back to my training base in the UK, I would have to quarantine for a certain amount of time. I wouldn't be able to train with anyone, so I'd be training by myself anyway. Yeah, the weather isn't great. So if I'm going to be training by myself, I thought I might as well come to the south of Spain where I have a training partner here. And we have a good group of us guys that will continue on to race a European Cup next week. And then there's another World Cup in Valencia at the beginning of November against another similarly really competitive field. So yeah, it's just these chances to try new things at the end of the season. There's not much pressure right now. They've stopped distributing ITU points, so there's nothing on the line for like Olympic qualification or for rankings. So it's really just a chance to line up against some of the best in the world, try some new race strategies, try to be brave and try something you've never done before or would maybe never do in a race where there was more pressure to have a good result.
Right. What does training look like for you on a regular day? Because obviously you do a swim, and then the next day you do a biking, and the next day you do a running. But what does a training week look like for you in preparation for competition? Because in preparation for competition and actually just trying to stay fit are two different things, aren't they?
Yeah, for sure. So generally, I would say when we're getting ready for a competition, the training drops off a lot. So it's what you call like tapering. So you're trying to just you've done the work. Like for me now, I've done the work over the last 6 months. It's really just about fine tuning a couple things, getting specific workouts in. So like brick sessions. So biking straight into running, maybe practicing some beach starts and things like that. Definitely adding in a lot more speed work rather than sort of easy, steady miles. But we right now I'm keeping the volume fairly high because in the back of my head I know that if I want to be where I want to be next year, I almost need to start that training now. So we are pushing through a fair bit, certainly through the next race, which is a European Cup. Probably won't reduce my training volume too much for that. But before Valencia, yeah, we'll back off quite a lot because it's a really good field, and yeah, you want to be able to perform on the day. So right now, yeah, the training generally on a day-to-day basis is swimming Monday to Friday, so 5 days a week and around 25 kilometers, and then riding 6 times a week, maybe like 400 Ks, depending on in Spain the roads are a lot faster, so maybe like 450 Ks because you can just go around everywhere at 30 kilometers an hour. And then running's the one that I've been building back. So my run volume is pretty small right now. I've managed to work up just back to 5 days a week of running, which for me, I mean, back in April, I was only running 3 times like 15 minutes after the surgery. So yeah, that's the work in progress, and that's what we're gonna try, get the mileage higher over winter without getting injured, which is the key thing that I've struggled with over the past couple of years. But I think yeah, this year between my coach and with the help of like physio and stuff like that, hopefully be able to manage that. And also I think I'm a bit more experienced. I'm a bit more knowledgeable about what works, what load I can manage for a consistent period of time, and what I think I need to do to get me to the next level.
How often do you work on those transitions? Because I remember transitions when you talk to triathletes, transitions can help you either get ahead and win a race or be ahead and lose a race. So how often do you work on the transitions?
Yeah, like for sure, transitions is crazy even at a world class level. Sometimes they're really overlooked. And it's if you like for me, transitions you can save 5 to 10 seconds in a race if you're able to do them well and be one of the best at them. And so for me, that's something I practice try to practice like every week. It doesn't take a lot of it's for the small amount of time. If you're just doing 30 minutes of transitions a week, and we do them sometimes in sessions and sometimes just standalone transitions.
Mhm.
That's a huge return on investment. To take 5 to 10 seconds off a 750-meter swim at this point is, yeah, that requires a whole winter of training probably. And you could argue probably the same when you're at your peak running to drop that amount of time. You certainly couldn't do it with an extra 30 minutes per week. It would take something a bit more, a bit more of a committed effort. So, yeah, transitions we try to get out there once a week and practice them, make sure everything's clean. I think everything was really clean in Arzachena. When you have a low start position, it's really tough to have quick transitions because your stuff is all the way at the back of the
Right.
line. But yeah, as we collect points, we should hopefully get to the front, and that way, yeah. I mean, along with practicing transitions, you should see the time start to drop.
Yeah. Where would you consider your strength is right now in out of the three disciplines?
Yeah, probably a mix between swimming and cycling for me. Still pretty well rounded between those two, and then yeah, I mean, coming back from an injury for sure, the run is the weakness right now, but I know I'm confident I can get that down to a good level before next year, and that's just going to take time. I've only been running for maybe since the beginning of June, seriously. So yeah, what, like 4 months now, 5 months now. So that's not enough time to really lay down an endurance base and build speed on top of that. We kind of had to take a few shortcuts to kind of get to where I am right now, which is introducing speed work earlier than you normally would, introducing tempos and stuff like that before really having any sort of mileage base. So the hope is that after the season we go back, build up the mileage, and then can layer some speed on top of that. And I think right now in ITU racing you need to be looking to run certainly under 14:30 for 5 kilometers, and if you want to be competitive, they've shown that you need to really be running under 14 minutes. But for me, it's get to sort of that first step, 14:30 or something like that, and then at least that gives me the ability to be competitive in the run, especially in European Cups and World Cups to some extent, and certainly not losing places to athletes in the pack behind. And then if I can do that and take advantage of my swimming bike, I think that puts me in a good position for some good results next year.
Yeah. Well, you're saying 14:30. I have to put that in perspective because we're talking about after a swim, after a cycle, you want to run 14:30 in a 5K.
So
that's kind of that's kind of remarkable at times when you're.
yeah. So
when you're,
sorry. Yeah. So I would say 14:30. Sorry, 14:30 as like a fresh 5K.
oh, okay.
14:30 in a road race, and then for me, yeah, if you want to be running low 15s off the bike. The weekend was a difficult course, with the hill in it and stuff like that, so slightly slower, but yeah, you still want to be around that at least 15:30 to 15:45 range on something like that.
Right,
Obviously, the best in the world are a step ahead, but if I was able to run that on Saturday, for instance, that at least puts me into the prize money and into the top 10, which, yeah, for me at this stage is kind of where I need to be, where I need to have my target set to.
16, 18 off the bike on Sunday after doing 30, 36 on the bike and 9, 19 on the swim. Obviously, putting that all together it is a bit challenging at times, but when you're still trying to find your way, and at what time did you feel? Well, you said off the bike, but at what time did you feel during the run? Hey, I've done a little better than I thought I would, and I feel okay.
Probably not till I cross the finish, just because you don't know. In the race, you have no idea what position you're in, where things are. Like, you have an idea, but yeah, nothing's for certain until the finish line. Like, it can be the last K and you can have a meltdown. Like, you've seen it happen to top level athletes. They get to the last 500 meters and I don't know whether it's a cramp or some like hydration issue or something like that. Anything can go wrong. So on the run, I was running in with some solid athletes at some points, but yeah, they just had a bit more in the legs on the day. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I can't be disappointed with the run, but at the same time, I'm yeah, it's something that needs work for sure. But yeah, I mean, once I crossed the line, looking back at the race, and once I was there at the finish line, I was happy with how things went for sure. So
Mm,
it's not to take anything away from my race, but it's just, yeah, that's what needs improvement for sure at that level.
right. In Bermuda, when we have triathlons, due to so many other reasons, we do them first thing in the morning. But here
Yeah.
you are racing in the afternoon. So you have all day to kind of do many other things. Are you a better morning triathlete or are you a better afternoon triathlete?
I would say generally I prefer to race in the afternoon. Um, just feel the body's a bit more awake. I enjoy getting out for like a spin in the morning or a shakeout run or something just to get activated, having a nice breakfast, watching the women's race, and then getting to go. The morning races are, yeah. I mean, you race the conditions, but for me, yeah, I definitely enjoy the afternoon races. The one benefit of the morning races is there's no rush after. Like after an afternoon race, it's straight back to the hotel, bike packed, get some food in you, and then you're like leaving to the airport at 3 o'clock in the morning on a transfer with everyone else. But yeah, generally, I think I race a bit better in the afternoon, but I think that's the case for a lot of people just because down to sort of circadian rhythms and stuff like that, core body temperature is a bit higher. You look at when world records are set, it's always in an evening, typically in an evening session. Times are faster, you feel a bit better, you're a bit more awake. But yeah, I mean, I've raced sort of all throughout the day, so afternoon, morning, and then even done races that start at 8 o'clock at night. So it's you approach them all a bit differently, and you just try to figure out what works for you. And obviously, the more races you do, the more experience you get, and the better you are prepared for the next one.
Yeah. When you look back at all especially the major festivals that we do in Bermuda, and the one that you've done, I think in 2019 in Peru, you done the triathlon in Peru. Um, those conditions were extreme.
So I wasn't actually
No,
in Peru, but
where were you?
in for like
Oh, the
major games,
CAC
we do
games,
CAC
CAC
games
games.
in
Yes.
yeah, and then Commonwealth games as
Right.
well.
The CAC games, those conditions were extremely hot. Um,
Yes, yeah.
the helping or mentally getting back into that type of atmosphere, how challenging is it for you? Because obviously at the end of the race you're drained, because of the heat and so forth. And people think in Bermuda we do have a lot of heat, but many triathlons are never in the summer. They're basically done in the cooler months. So going from the heat to the
Yeah.
winter or cooler systems, which one do you prefer to be in?
I think I I prefer the heat. Like what we had on Saturday was perfect conditions, like 24 degrees, water temperature 20 degrees. So the heat wasn't a limiting factor for anyone on Saturday, like unless you're really coming from, I don't know, somewhere like Russia or something. Even the Norwegians train in Spain, so the heat wasn't a limiting factor for anyone really on Saturday. When I'm acclimatized to the heat, for sure I prefer the heat, but the heat it's a tricky one if I'd been like England over the winter and then trying to go race in 30 degrees is always difficult. But I think the amount of training I just know how to prepare myself for the heat, whether it's short term or long term. So, in Bermuda I know that you have to back off the training a bit. You can't do the same intensity. You can't expect to hit the same times. You can't even do the same duration. Recovery takes longer in between sessions when you're training. And then in racing, I just know the importance of like yeah, you have to just keep hydrated. You have to keep drinking. You probably, if you try to take a gel, you're probably going to have a bit more trouble digesting that because, yeah, pretty much all the blood flows go into your skin and not much to your gut. So, yeah, there's kind of these little things that I think make racing in the heat a bit of an advantage for me, just because of my background. Well, like literally, it's because of living in Bermuda for 18 years. So, um, yeah, I think the cold weather, I can manage in it. I had a good result in Rotterdam 2017 World Juniors when it was about 12, 13 degrees. Water temperature was about 15 or 16 degrees. And but that was just by virtue of me having done a winter in the UK where it was raining and snowing for like 70% of my rides.
Right.
So I think right now I'm pretty well acclimatized to. I think I'm well prepared to race in any sort of conditions, which is, yeah, it's good. It just means I can rock up to a race and not really, I'm racing the people around me. Don't need to really be too worried about the conditions. Whatever happens, happens. Even on Saturday, it was borderline. I mean, for Flora's race, it was a wetsuit swim. For our race, it wasn't. And just knowing that, yeah, I can swim fine in a wetsuit, and if it's not a wetsuit race, that works for me as well. Like, it wasn't really. You had even elite athletes like Vincent Louis saying like, "Oh, like I hope it's a non-wetsuit race." The Norwegians going, "I hope it is a wetsuit race." And it is nice, it's valuable to just be able to go. Yeah, and I'm indifferent. Like I know I'll swim good in either condition. Like if it's raining, I'll be okay. If it's really hot, I'll be okay. So just having that versatility, I think, is a really valuable.
Yeah. You indicated that where you want to be next year. What does 2021 look like for you? What are you hoping to achieve? Where are you hoping to compete?
Yeah, I mean, 2021 is so unknown right now. Like, when is racing going to resume? When's the Olympic qualification period going to resume? Is there going to be any World Series? Is there going to be World Cup racing? I'd like to continue racing the early season World Cups, and then obviously I'd like to really get on a WTS start line next year. The main goal as well would be there's the World Under 23s in Edmonton. So I mean, this is my last year as an under 23. I'd like to really commit to that and give it a good go. Olympic qualification, that would be, I think, at this stage difficult, but it's not impossible. It would just require really good results and whenever they reopen the qualification period. So this has almost bought me a year of time for development. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't get there with results on the weekend. I would need a slightly improved results, probably looking at like top tens. So yeah, well, I mean, it's what everyone's dream is. So you have to give it an effort. Even though it's the difficult thing about the Olympics is it's a 2-year qualification window, and obviously at the beginning of the 2 years, in 2018, I had just finished becoming a junior athlete and was just turning into like a under 23 senior athlete. So it's pretty much the first 18 months of that qualification window. There is no chance that I would have had to get into the races, let alone get enough points in the races to qualify. Whereas now I'm a bit older. I think I've improved quite a bit. I can actually get into these races, and there is a chance that I could get points to qualify. Just whether or not that there's going to be enough races left. And yeah, with only probably 3 or 4 races left, it would be difficult because it's 12 races to count across 2 years. But I'll give it everything I have. As I said, it's what everyone's dream is. And if you fall short of qualifying for the Olympics, then at least you're well positioned to continue racing on the World Series and hopefully have a good result in the end of the year in the grand final in Edmonton, which they moved from Bermuda, unfortunately. But yeah, that's probably how 2021 looks for me.
Okay. Well, I do want to thank you for your time. Wishing you all the best next week. And then in November, we'll keep an eye on how you're making out and the progress and wish you all the best. Okay?
Hey, thanks a lot for the time.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.
Have a good day.